Hello, my boils, my ghouls, and my zools. Welcome back to Kalash Kamaz. So, man, I'm out here in the nice hot Texas winter wearing shorts, sweating a little bit, but it's nice outside, so we're going to do this outside today. Mostly because I want some better light to show you all a little bit about what I told you I was not going to talk about anymore, actually. So, and the last video I posted, it made a little bit of a stir. I kind of let people make up their own minds about the situation a bit. But anyhow, there has since been some interviews and whatnot by people claiming some things that are just not true, straight up. So, for example, these super safeties, they're not drop-in. None of these trip bar cam design super safety derivative designs, none of them are drop-in. And that's why you'll see, for example, our Aussie pals over at Alpha Tactical calling it a parts kit, because that's what it is. It's not a trigger kit, it's a parts kit. So it's not a drop-in solution by any means. And today I want to show you why, because there are definitely claims being made by a certain company that these can be drop-in. And we got a standard 7.62 Riley defense gun right here. So let's pull out the relevant bits and let me show you here. So I realize that not everybody works on their own guns. I'm aware that not everybody knows anything about the construction of AKs. They just want to shoot them and have fun with them and whatnot. But and that's all fine and well, but there are some things to know when let's just get this out of the way for the moment. There are some things to know if you want a nice little toy like a super safety. And there are other designs coming up that are not derivative of this whatsoever. So this current design, it's not a terrible design. It's just not a whole fix for the issue, which the issue being simulated full auto fire. It's more like a solution that gets your foot in the door. But this design inherently cannot last forever. So let's start with that first, and then we'll go through why these cannot be drop-in. So I'm just pulling out one right now for you. And the main components of the kit are going to be a trip bar and a cam. What this cam does is basically this is the part that resets your trigger, and it interacts with the trigger. In fact, we'll pull out a trigger group right here. I frankly don't know if this one would be compatible, because these are not compatible with every single trigger shoe. But I got a Russian full auto fire control group here. And yes, this would work. But we're not going to be installing that on camera because, I still value having a channel. So you got your trigger shoe here. And then this cam will interact with the trigger shoe to push it back forward. And it will do that with the trip bar by pushing the cam, and it'll go with your carrier. So it fits in with your carrier to push this rod back, turn this cam, and then it will rock your trigger shoe forward. What you have to do to get these to work is you have to take a bit off of this corner here. Now, it's a very tight fit you have to have, so you have to be very, very careful. These super safety designs do come with a little jig, and the jig fits over the side. You want to, for stability, put the pin through, and then, you just basically take a Dremel, take a grinder, maybe mark it off first, and then take the jig off, and then you start grinding, and then you're going to have to start test fitting. Now, it does take quite a bit of time to get these tuned. Now, the reason why these cannot be a drop-in solution is, famously, AKs have loose tolerances. Now, the biggest problem, we're going to use this punch here as a little pointer. You have your rails up here. The trip bar fits right up in there into the rail. So I'm not doing it correctly there, but yeah, there we go. So fits right up in there into the rail, and it moves back and forth with the carrier. Now, inherent problem with that is that all AKs are different, and you'll find many AKs where you're not going to get as lucky as I did just now of slipping this right in. I didn't do any pre-fitment or anything. I just slipped this one right in. That may not be the case. That very well may not be the case, especially with a surplus kit. So, you know, in fact, this one doesn't perfectly fit. So a little bit will have to be sanded off of one of the rails. So let me use a tool to pop this out. Now, what you would do in this case is basically sand or grind down on the rail just to basically give it a little more space to move back and forth. Now, if you have, say, a surplus kit that may even have some dinged up rails, or, you know, say you have a Yugoslavian kit, or, you know, a RPK, you know, you're gonna have to tune this a little bit. This is not, you know, a standard drop-in even for an AKM. So even with an AKM, there might be slight differences in the thousandths of your rail placement, your rail height. So due to those tiny little minute differences, this may not travel back and forth in a, you know, smooth manner. The other problem you're looking at is the way the triggers, the holes for the trigger are cut. It's another thing where they may differ by a few thousandths. Now, this is going to be what's called tolerance stacking. When you have, you know, a few thousandths here that it's a little off, a few thousandths here it's a little off, and there might even be a height difference. There might even be a few thousandths from side to side from the wall of the receiver itself. Keep in mind, I was saying, you have to have a very tight fitment between your trigger shoe and your cam. Now, the problem with that when you have loose tolerances like that on an AK is that every single one of them is going to be slightly different. You know, it's just the spec. That's just how it is. So if you hear claims that this trip bar and cam design is a drop-in, that is a lie. It's a straight up lie. It cannot happen. The only way that could possibly happen is if you adapted this whole thing into some kind of cassette system. Then how are you going to install it? So it has to be a completely different design for it to be drop-in. This was not designed to be a drop-in. This was designed to be 3D printed. So keep that in mind. These are metal parts. This particular one is from D's Nuts Tactical, but across the different manufacturers of these metal super safeties, you're going to find 4150, you're going to find you know, D2 tool steel, you know, a variety of materials, and each one of those companies would have had to go through their CAD files, which originated, the original design for this type of functionality originated from DefCAD. So you're gonna have to go on there, and then you can't just take a part, you know, a what's called an STL file. You can't just take that was designed to be printed in plastic and then just straight out start cutting it on a CNC. The dimensions won't be quite correct. So you have to do a little adaptation to be able to get this to work with, you know, a CNC or even a metal 3D printer if you happen to be a baller. But, you know, I'm not aware of any of these yet that have been made with a metal 3D printer. It is possible, very expensive, so doubt we're going to see that happen. Another problem you're going to have, the hardness of this, even with a minimum hardness of 4140, which is a perfectly fine material for the application, you're going to run into the variety of different hardnesses with your trigger shoes. Now, Romanians might be a little harder than, say, like a surplus Romanian one. There's a very well good chance it could be a lot harder than even a current Russian trigger. This is a surplus one, so I couldn't tell you the hardness on this one. But when it comes to trigger fire control groups, you're looking at a variety of different manufacturing processes too, because you will find CNC machined triggers, you'll find metal injection molded triggers, and you will also find 3D printed triggers. That is a thing. It's not uncommon. All three of those are very common in the industry. 3D printed ones are probably the least common because, as I said, printing 3D printing metal is extremely expensive. Doesn't exactly make a cheap fire control group unless you're making thousands and thousands of them, in which case you may as well cut down on your manufacturing cost and go with metal injection molding, which has been ruining AKs since 1986. So essentially, unless you're real versed on your metallurgy and manufacturing processes, I had a spider crawling up me. Unless you're versed on your metallurgy and manufacturing processes, you might not even know an approximate hardness of your trigger shoe. Now, being that you have to have a tight fit between the cam and the trigger shoe for it to actually trip and rock your trigger back into a forward position for it to force the reset, you have to, kind of match your hardness so that you don't have excessive wear on your trigger shoe, because this is harder than this. One hard material against a softer material can create wear. So there you go. That's why if you see a claim that these style of trigger kits, these parts kits, if you see any claims that these are 100% drop-in, that is a lie. I just want to be very clear about that. Because of all the drama surrounding these, I figured, being that the company central to all this drama is still to this day claiming that they have a drop-in solution, it's not true. It is not true. No other company makes any kind of claim that these are drop-in. Every single one of them tells you fitting may be required. And well, being that we don't have just commonly available milled off trigger shoes where you can just do a little bit of fitment, yeah, it takes some heavy fitment on the trigger shoe. So you have to be aware of that. You have to be comfortable with that. In fact, you might even want to get yourself just a couple extra like fine trigger groups or something like that to grind on in case you take too much off, because that can happen. Any slop between any of this and the thing doesn't work. So it has to be an extremely tight fitment. So basically, these are not forever solutions. Not a forever solution at all. Nobody's making claims that these are going to work forever. So basically, you're seeing a lot of these companies offering an extraordinary warranty on these parts because like something like this doesn't cost much. It doesn't cost much. It's a bunch of folded steel and then it's machined out. So that's how these are made. And yeah, basically, you might see Alpha Tactical, who I am currently working with. I want to be clear about that. You might see them supplying an extra trip bar with it because, you might snap the thing by bending it because that's part of the tuning. You might have to bend it a bit to get it to catch on the carrier. Some people have snapped these trying to bend them across something like that. So, it's not a forever solution. It wasn't designed to be. It's designed to be a thing where you can go out and simulate full auto fire and have some fun. Keep that in mind. So, though there are many versions of this, I wouldn't really consider any of them a competitor to any of them because, well, they're making them in different materials. Some of them you are getting an option for different materials. You have lots of different companies producing similar takes on this, which are going to be just basically differences in their CAD files to make it work with their CNC. Because I don't know how many of these companies are sharing those files around, but you may even find some of that because, a lot of these companies cooperate and nobody's really trying to make $1 million off of these. So That's why they're all ranging from about the $110 to $200 range, and they're all worth it. They're all worth it. So any more than that, and it gets a little ludicrous, you know, because it's a range toy. It's not a serious duty use kind of part. It's a range toy. And I think that should be very, very clear going into this, that it is going to take a little work. It's going to take a bit of fitment. And, you know, you're going to have to understand that relationship between the cam and your trigger, excuse me, going backwards here. You know, you're gonna have to understand that relationship between the cam and your trigger shoe, because this is right where it fits, right in here. You loop it around your safety, and that's what that hole is for. It goes into your safety, you install your safety, and then you start working on your fitment with your trigger shoe. Does that sound drop into you? Stay safe, have fun, do stupid.